One report indicates very soon a gay NFL player will come out. But the headline, he's not afraid of the locker room, he's afraid of the fans. I'm Brooke Baldwin. The news is now.
Find out why drones could be flying over your house sooner than you think. And the author of Friday Night Lights admits he has a serious addiction to shopping. Plus, acquitted of killing her roommate during a drug-fueled sex game, Italy wants Amanda Knox back. And as the demand for ammo goes up, so do job openings.
Top of the hour, I'm Brooke Baldwin. For civil rights, it was Brown versus Board of Education. For women's rights, Roe v. Wade. Now, gay rights advocates are hoping Hollingsworth v. Perry becomes their landmark case, because this is the case that the U.S. Supreme Court heard today on whether same-sex marriage should in fact be legal. And we are now getting this audio from inside the nation's highest court. Let me play this for you. Let me set this up. This exchange is between Justice Elena Kagan and the attorney against same-sex marriage, Charles Cooper.
Well, suppose a state said, Mr. Cooper, suppose a state said, because we think that the focus of marriage really should be on procreation, we're not going to give marriage licenses anymore to any couple where both people are over the age of 55. Would that be constitutional?
No, Your Honor, it would not be constitutional.
Because that's the same state interest, I would think. You know, if you're over the age of 55, you don't help us serve the government's interest in regulating procreation through marriage. So why is that different?
Your Honor, even with respect to couples over the age of 55, it is very rare that both parties to the couple are infertile. And the traditional
no, really, because if a couple, I can just assure you, if both the woman and the man are over the age of 55, there are not a lot of children coming out of that marriage.
Little laughter inside the U.S. Supreme Court today. So at the heart of this case is Proposition 8, or Prop 8, which bans same-sex marriage. Californians approved it 5 years ago, but these two here, same-sex couples, the plaintiffs in this case, are arguing that keeping them from getting married is unconstitutional. On the flip side, supporters of Prop 8 say the courts should not undo a decision by the voters. So let's turn now to two strong voices on this issue. We have Ben Ferguson, host of radio's Ben Ferguson Show, and David Sirota, a syndicated columnist and radio talk show host as well. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you here. Right off the top.
Good to be back.
Good to have you. Right off the top, in 30 seconds, I want each of you to just explain your positions. Ben, I defer to you first.
Well, I'll say this. I think what this boils down to is you have the people in California that decided they wanted marriage to stay traditional between one man and one woman. And that does not mean that they don't believe in civil unions and equal rights under the law, but the sanctity of marriage being between a man and a woman, they, the voters, did not want it to redefine it and then open the door for it to continue to be redefined year after year, decade after decade. And I think that's why even in California, a liberal state, they chose, the citizens chose to keep it the way that it is.
Okay, you say Californians spoke here. David, 30 seconds. What's your stance?
Well, southern states in the Confederacy spoke also back many years ago, saying that they wanted separate but equal for African Americans and white people, and the court struck that down because the court recognized that there's a constitutional right to equal protection under the law. And if the government is going to be in the business of recognizing or not recognizing marriages, it should be in the business of extending the same exact identical protections to people regardless of their sexual orientation. End of story.
Okay, I want to start. There are a lot of arguments we could go through, guys. Let me just begin with this one that was actually brought up by Justice Kennedy, talking about the children. So, Ben, let me quote this.
Yeah.
Quote, there is some 40,000 children in California that live with same-sex parents. They want their parents to have full recognition and full status. The voice of those children is important. And that comes just about a week after the American Academy of Pediatrics endorsed same-sex marriage, saying that there is no evidence that it harms children in any way. Do you think that children
I
should
think
be brought
if you're
into
coming
this
from a
discussion?
doctor, Well, I mean, if you're coming from a doctor's perspective and a doctor says that they don't see any harm to children, I'm not claiming that if you are gay or lesbian that you're going to harm a child. And so I think it's pretty obvious with their conclusion there. The issue is this. Can someone still have the same legal rights under the law without changing the definition of marriage? Because there is the other issue. Once you change it once, and we know, and the Supreme Court knows this better than anybody, that once you make a change, you are opening up that definition to be changed continuously to any person that says, well, what about my group? What about my definition of what I believe marriage should be?
You missed the question. I mean, you can get into rights, and that's a whole other argument.
I don't think I did.
But when it comes to kids, should that be part of the discussion at this level, at the nation's highest court level? Is that pertinent?
I mean, I think you have to look at the actual, what they're trying to decide. And what they're trying to decide is not what kids want to call mom and dad, and they can call them mom and dad. What the court is looking at is not what the kids are asking for at the age of 6 or 7, because I doubt that many are asking for something. That's not what they're deciding at the court. They're deciding, should we redefine marriage and go against the voters of California, which, by the way, is not the South.
David?
It's California, a liberal state. And they say they want it to be one man, one woman.
David, jump in.
First of all, if you don't think 6 or 7-year-old kids are asking for something, it shows you're probably not a parent. Because believe me, kids at that age are asking, and they're understanding what equal rights are and what equal rights are not. I think the court should take that into account, but I think the country should take that into account. That we have to understand that the way our laws recognize people, is a way for us to create or not create equality. There is no equality with separate but equal. What Ben is arguing for is separate but equal, which is a inherently bigoted idea.
But also, if I can, to Ben's point, hang on, to Ben's point, and a lot of the defenders of Prop 8, would say, look, you look to the states. Why not? And even some of the justices are sort of wondering aloud if they took this case too quickly, and we'll see if they move on it or not. But the fact that should this be a state's issue? He has a point. A lot of people have a point, David Sirota.
Well, I don't know, but let me go back on that. We had a country that 50, 60 years ago, states had voted through their legislatures and created all sorts of laws to create separate but equal. And the court stepped in and said there is an inherent constitutional national right to equal protection under the law. So I don't buy the states' rights argument.
Which civil unions would allow
60, 70 years ago, states' rights was a clarion call for bigots, just as I think it is right now.
Okay.
Ben Ferguson, respond. You have the last word.
Let me say this. 41 states have decided they want to respect marriage being between a man and a woman, and they're also very open to civil unions. It's a brilliant ploy, what your other guest said. If you don't agree with me, and many on the left are saying this, many gay rights groups, then you're automatically a racist and a bigot, which is a great way to win your argument. But 41 states, including California, have decided that they're not going to allow people to continue to call them bigots just because they want to defend something that has been traditionally since the beginning of time between one man and one woman, and they're willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise. I think civil unions are something that people are in favor of. But hold on. But you call somebody like me a bigot because you don't want to respect any other viewpoint but your own, and therefore you say I'm a bigot because you have no respect for my marriage
David
or
Sirota,
tradition.
are you calling Ben a bigot? Are we going there?
I said you were forwarding a bigoted idea. But I would say this, Ben.
You might as well call me a bigot. I mean, let's be blunt.
Your argument is the same argument. You would make the same argument that we should have respected states' rights to keep separate but equal for African Americans.
No,
nobody says the people who wanted to keep states' rights against African Americans. Nobody would have made the same argument saying that we should have separate but equal for African Americans, but it doesn't mean that the people who are pushing that are bigots. We all said as a country that people who said
gentlemen, this just goes to show this is the perfect microcosm of the discussion and the argument that is happening today, not only in Washington, D.C., but I'm sure across lunch tables and dinner tables as to whether or not Prop 8 should be overturned, whether this is a states' rights issue, whether this is constitutional or not. We have to wait and see how the nation's highest court rules. That's not happening for another couple of months. In the meantime, thanks for the semi-polite discussion, David Sirota and Ben Ferguson, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me move on.